What's going on, everybody? Hope you're all having a fantastic day today. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as you guys probably already know, the other day, we went ahead and discussed the possibilities of skill-based matchmaking / EOMM being introduced into Battlefield 6. Obviously, it was data mined, and we saw a bunch of information kind of showcasing that all the game modes, whether it's the Gauntlet, whatever, Battle Royale, or even multiplayer, is going to have a matchmaking system in place that is going to be covering your skill, your KD, your win-loss, so on and so forth. It's going to be taking so many factors into account on how good of a player you are to kind of matchmake you into different lobbies. But the other day, we actually had the lead producer, David Serland, come out, and he didn't come out publicly. This was in the private playtest little Discord they have, so everybody who got into the alpha playtest has access to this Discord, and this information got leaked out from that Discord to Reddit for the rest of us to see, which I'm very thankful for. I'm glad people are sharing this information, because honestly, this is huge. I don't know why they would only share this with just the alpha contestant. They should, share it with everybody so they can kind of calm down the crowds if, they need to do so. But I'll be honest, ladies and gentlemen, after seeing what I saw from David Serland, I'm still a tad bit worried. I see a lot of people already praising it and saying, thank goodness, it looks like we are free. But I've seen this time and time again from multiple different studios, and it never really has a good outcome. But of course, ladies and gentlemen, before we go and dive deep, if you guys are interested in more content just like this, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell. I post daily here at 8 and 1 Eastern Time. And of course, if you guys are interested in any of my live streams, I stream Monday through Saturday over on Twitch, starting between 12 to 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Of course, if you guys are interested, got a link to the channel down in the description of this video. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, like I said, I saw this over on Twitter by OldDoubt5886 saying, PSA from David Serland and Battlefield Labs surrounding the controversy of skill-based matchmaking. It says, PSA 2042 has skill-based matchmaking according to this definition. This is what I tried to detail above yesterday. It has a factor of skill it used, but ping and time to game is the top priority. And in a 64-player game, our want is to spawn a server that starts as soon as possible. Thus, the skill factor is negligible in terms of sorting into servers. Also with a party that is more or less ignored. Just to clarify, saying skill-based matchmaking is bad is not really useful. What you really want to say is heavy skill-based matchmaking, where skill separation is a priority, is bad. But that doesn't make skill as a factor in matchmaking bad wholesale. On the contrary, we need a skill value to make balanced teams, no matter the ranges of skills total on a server. It wouldn't be fun if all high-skill players ended up on the same team, would it? Just to calm things down a tad, the fact a skill value is in the matchmaker, it's been there since we started being able to matchmake by the way, doesn't mean we are going with a heavy-handed skill-based matchmaking solution. Quite the opposite. Battlefield is at its best when you play the all-out war modes with friends and different types of players. We do not want to limit that. All of this is also true, skill being important for team balancing, regardless of in which way you join the server for reference. Did you feel like the Battlefield Labs playtest were heavy-handed skill-based matchmaking? No? Then we're good. It's the same matchmaker and settings we'll use with tweaks if we find any issues, of course. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very happy David Serland came out here and kind of debunked all of the information that we have seen. Not really debunked, because obviously these stats are within the files of Battlefield 6, so we know it's a system in place that's going to be tracking this stuff. But to have the head come out and say that, again, this has already been in Battlefield, it's in 2042, it's the same exact system, so on and so forth, is, it's kind of settling. I like to hear this, and I think a lot of the community likes to hear this as well. But I will be honest, I do want to be, still on my toes here when it comes to Battlefield 6. Although I want to be very happy with what we see with Battlefield 6 because the game looks amazing. But again, like I said in the beginning of this video, I've seen the same statement time and time before. Don't you guys remember Delta Force, where they said they didn't have a strict matchmaking system? And now we're at the point where the majority of, the Battlefield YouTubers are literally ditching Delta Force to come back to Battlefield 2042 because it's becoming way too intense and way too tough of, a game when Battlefield, where you should be seeing variety. No, there's no variety. Nothing but stacks, using the same weapons, sweating it out to the max degree, taking away all the casual fun that Battlefield, or I guess Delta Force, has to offer. We see it with all different games. Call of Duty never admitted to EOMM. They still say that their matchmaking system is simplistic, yet it's heavily thick when it comes to playing the game. Even Splitgate 2. I'm very excited for Splitgate 2, but even they are kind of tiptoeing around the topic of skill-based matchmaking. You can't really get a definite answer. They all say the same thing. They say, oh yes, we have matchmaking in the game. Matchmaking is required, but it technically isn't toned so high. And that is the go-to phrase for all of these companies. And although I want to believe David Serland because I have a lot of trust in this man, he's a great individual and he does know indeed what he's doing, especially when it comes to the community. But I can't lie to you guys that this still does worry me because the skill-based matchmaking is not in David Serland's hands. It's in EA's hands. And that is where it's rough. For example, why not just say we have team balancing in Battlefield? Because that's all the game needs. We're not trying to find players of similar skill or find people with a similar win-loss ratio. No, we're just trying to find the best connection, and then it balances the team once it collects all the players. Why not just say that? Why not just say, hey, the game doesn't have thick skill-based matchmaking. It just has team balancing, and that's all you got to stress about. Something seems still to me personally a bit fishy. And although, like I said, I'm happy David Serland came out and stated this information, I don't trust EA. And, even if things get ramped up in the future, I'm never going to put the blame on David Serland for coming out and trying to calm the community on this topic because like I said, it has nothing to do with him. Nothing to do with any of the developers behind the scenes. They're just there to make the game and try to put out a banging Battlefield title. EA has full say on what's going to happen with the matchmaking. They have full say with how thick they want it to be, how manipulative they want it to be. They have say on all of these different things. And the devs will never be able to fight back because that is not their case. Unless they want to lose their job, they're just going to have to take it and, let it be introduced into the game, as you can see with all the Call of Duty developers, Like Modern Warfare 3 2023, for an example, was an outstanding COD game. I thought Sledgehammer nailed it, but guess what? All year long, people absolutely crapped on it, said Sledgehammer is horrible because of skill-based matchmaking. Do you think that Sledgehammer really wanted that in the game? Don't you think they would want everybody to be happy and satisfied with playing Modern Warfare 3? It's out of their control. It's Activision. And same thing here when it comes to Battlefield 6. It's out of the devs' hands. It's all up to EA. Now, I don't want to be all doom and gloom. I think this is great news, and I think that this is a right step in the correct direction because Battlefield 2042 is not sweaty whatsoever. It's a reason why everybody ditched Delta Force to come back to 2042. So again, great news. I'm glad to hear that this is how they're handling things, but it still worries me because I feel like they are still pushing for the direction of no server browser. The only way this system could be effective the way they want it to be is if, we can't pick our own servers, because if we pick our own servers, then it can't account for skill. It can't account for win-loss ratio. You join into a game, and then once the game is done, it evaluates all the stats and it tries to balance the game as best as possible for the next round. This can only be in place when you have basic matchmaking. Well, not basic match, I guess it's in-depth matchmaking, but when you allow EA to pick your lobbies for you, that's when this comes into place. And I don't think I've ever seen a matchmaking system on point when it comes to this. Every matchmaking system that doesn't allow us to actually pick the matches we want are just horrendous. Again, I've stated it time and time and time again. The majority of the games that I play on Battlefield 2042 are packed with bots. And I know there's players online. And trust me, I know Battlefield 6 is going to be more populated. But you get what I'm saying here? It doesn't prioritize better connection. I play on horrible connection all the time. I'm versing bots all the time. Even when the game is populated later in the day, I'm still getting pretty bad ping. It just, it'll be so much easier if I could just pick the server myself. But I don't think they want that. I think they're hyper prioritizing, having their own matchmaking so they can put people through this cycle, which once again brings me back to why I'm a bit worried. Although these are good words from David Serland, it doesn't confirm that EA isn't going to change anything in, the future. Even David Serland said himself that, again, if anything happens in the future and they see things that need to be changed, they will tweak things if things go down to it. And, that just leaves it open-ended. It's not a closed-ended statement here where we know for a fact this is it, nothing is happening. They left it open-ended because they know it could be some potential that, EA will screw a few things around and they don't want to, be held accountable for something like that. I don't know. Like I said, I don't want to be too doom and gloom for you guys because, again, I'm excited for Battlefield as well. But I would say for each and every one of you guys, just be a little cautious, We can be excited about all the content that's still dropping. I still have videos that I want to make for Battlefield 6 about new leaks that just dropped that I'm really excited about. There's things to be excited about, but when you go into the experience, be cautious. You know what I mean? Just keep your eyes open and see how things are being handled. And if things are getting too strict, then it's the truth that they are trying to ramp it up. And if not, then, we win. We finally won. We have a good casual game that is going to be hopefully popular, well-developed, and not stupidly overly sweaty from a very strict matchmaking system. That will be a huge W in the books for every FPS gamer out there. So let's hope that actually happens. But ladies and gentlemen, as always, if you enjoyed today's video, leave a like. If you hated, leave a dislike. Don't forget subscribing at that bell. I post daily here at 8 and 1 Eastern Time. And of course, if you guys are interested in my live streams, I stream Monday through Saturday over on Twitch, starting between 12 to 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Of course, if you guys are interested, gotta link that channel down in the description of this video. But as always, thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace out.